America. I asked Dr. Ferris at Mid-America. I asked Dr. Beeman at Mid-America, all Hebrew scholars in every sense of the word, and I asked them, what does that mean? What does that mean that their blood will be required at our hands? Those that we can witness to and we don't, and they die and go to hell, their blood will be required at our hands. What does that mean? And they all said, we're not exactly sure, but we know this, that somehow we will be held accountable for those that we could have witnessed to and we don't. And folks, I don't want to go to heaven with bloody hands. I want to tell everybody that I can. Y'all with me? We don't want to go to heaven with bloody hands. And the last reason I witness is because nobody else is going. We don't run anybody off street corners when we go down in the hood. My daddy told me, he said, Ronnie, you crazy boy. He said, they're going to kill you down there in that ghetto. He said, you're going to leave your wife a widow and your children orphans. You're going to go down there and they're going to kill you and you're going to die, boy. You crazy. And I said, Daddy, they might kill me. I said, but I'm not going to die. He said, what are you talking about? I said, Daddy, I died on the altar when I said, God, I'll go where you want me to go and do what you want me to do and be what you want me to be. I said, I'm already dead, Daddy. He said, I understand now, son. God's called everyone in this place, if you're saved, to be a witness. And I'm just going to be honest with you, even though I don't have a place to hide. I'm going to say something hard tonight. If you've never really had a passion for the lost, you need to examine yourself and see if you're saved. The heart of God is missions and evangelism. He had one son and he made him a foreign missionary. Jesus said, for the Son of Man has come to seek and to save that which was lost. And if you've never even had a passion or a burden for souls, examine yourself and ask the Lord, say, God, if I'm saved, give me the sweetest peace I've ever had in my life, and if I'm not, make me miserable. Convict my heart. God, I want to be saved. Just tell him. I want to know. But the evidence is that you'll be a witness. Now, wouldn't it be a tragedy if I preached on soul winning and didn't give a good, strong evangelistic invitation? My Grandpa Albert was one of the best men I knew. When he was a little boy, he grew up in Tullos, Louisiana. That's in North Louisiana in the Pine Hills. And when he grew up as a little boy, he told me that the outlaw came to town one day, and the sheriff and the outlaw had a gunfight in the main street of Tullos, Louisiana. Now, for a kid, man, that was something. And I used to tell him, I'd say, Paul, tell me about the old days. Tell me about when you was a little boy. And boy, Paul Al would tell me them stories, and I'd sit there enthralled listening to those stories. And everybody said, oh, he's senile. But I didn't care. I loved his stories. I love my Grandpa Albert. I wonder about him now that I'm an adult, because I got the flu one time and was delirious with a fever for a couple of nights. And he told me later, he said, boy, I thought we was going to lose you there that one night. And I was sitting there thinking, now, why didn't you take me to the hospital, Grandpa? You know, I didn't believe in going to hospitals. He said, I thought we was going to lose you there that one night. And Grandma Faye put poultices on my chest to draw the poison out. And that's crazy stuff, isn't it? But if somebody's house burned down or somebody had a hardship, Grandpa Albert would be the first person over there with his car and a trunk full of groceries and a check to help them out. I never heard him say an ugly word. One of the most morally upright men I've ever met in my life. A good, honest man. Hard worker. Everybody loved Albert Tullos, and everybody thought the world of Albert Tullos. And when I got saved, I went and told him, I said, Grandpa, I got saved. I said, I gave my heart to Jesus. He said, oh, that's good, Ron. That's good. I said, Paul, listen, have you ever been saved? And he said, oh, I'm all right. I ain't never hurt nobody. I always try to help folks and be good. So a few months passed, and I'd learned how to witness a little bit. I went back to him. I said, Paul, I'm troubled. And he said, what, Ron? I said, Paul, I'm troubled. You know, you're a good man. I've never heard you say anything ugly, and you always help folks, but I've never seen you in church. I've never heard you talk about Jesus, Paul. I said, Grandpa, you need to get saved. He said, oh, I'm all right. I ain't never hurt nobody. I always try to help folks and be good. A couple of years went by, and I was fairly proficient. And I went back to him and witnessed to him and laid the word on him. He said, oh, I'm all right. I ain't never hurt nobody. I always try to help folks and be good. I went to Bible college and went back to see him and talked to him, and same thing. I'm all right. I'm all right. I begged him, please, Grandpa, you lost. You lost. He said, I'm all right, Ron. I'm okay. I always try to help folks. And I ain't never hurt nobody. I try to be good. I was down in Baton Rouge. My daddy called me and said, Ronnie, you need to come home. Grandpa Albert's dying. And I got to the Cabrini Hospital and walked in, and Daddy had his face in his hands. He was crying. And there was a big fan at the foot of the bed. And I said, what's going on, Daddy? And he looked at me and just shook his head and put his face back down in his hands. A little while later, Grandpa Albert's pulse began to drop. And as his pulse began to slow down, he began to say, hey, Earl, pull the covers off my feet, Earl. He said, Earl, my feet are hot. And he said, Earl, turn the fan on, Earl, my feet are hot. Earl, turn the fan on, Earl. And then he began to scream. And he said, oh, my God, no, get them away from me. They're coming to get me. Get them away from me. Pour some water on my feet. I'm burning up. I'm burning up. Get them away from me. Boy, I began to cry and beg God, God, he's going to hell. Don't let him die and go to hell. Please, God, don't let Grandpa Albert. I love him, God. Nobody's ever loved me like Paul Al. God, save my grandpa. That night, the doctor said, we don't know why he didn't die. We expected him to die. And he didn't. But it messed his mind up, and he didn't know anybody. And the man, I'd never heard an ugly word, just screamed obscenities all the time. They put him in a nursing home. I had to go back and finish that semester, and when the semester was over, I'd been praying for a month. God, give Grandpa Albert another chance. Don't let him die and go to hell. Give him another chance, God. And I was going up there, all the way up there to the nursing home where he was at. I was saying, God, let him know me. Give him another chance. God, don't let him die and go to hell. And I walked into the nursing home, into the room that he was in, and he said, hey, Ron. I said, thank you, Jesus. He knows me. You're going to save him. And I said, Paul, let me tell you what happened in the hospital. And I told him, I said, Grandpa, you were going to hell. Grandpa, you were sliding into hell. You got to get saved, Grandpa. And he said, oh, I'm all right. I ain't never hurt nobody. I always try to help folks and be good. And he died the next week. And my Grandpa Albert went to hell. And if I could preach him out of hell, I'd do it. Well, you can't preach somebody out of hell. You can't pray them out of hell. Once they die, that's it. And I've said for years we're not guaranteed tomorrow.